We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 on the 26th of June, the year 2023. And I would look for a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bruce. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Megan. And we need a roll call.
All right, Howery,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Mooney,
Yes.
Fessler,
Yes.
Fisher, yes.
Okay, so we can retire to closed session. We're going to go this way tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Angie's set us up in some, nicer digs down the hall. So we are back in open session. And let me... All right, so we have some consent agenda items. The minutes of the June 5th, 2023 school board meeting and June 8th, 2023 school board special meeting. We also have some general fund vouchers and purchasing card transactions. We would request approval of general fund vouchers 179761 through 180101 and 292284 through 292332, and purchasing card transactions dated 4/21/23 through 5/20/23. And we have some other personnel items, professional staffing recommendations and such with no vote necessary. So I would look for a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda item as presented.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you, Megan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And that takes us into, come on. Public comments. Angie, do we have any public comments this evening?
We have not received any prior to the meeting, and I will ask the public now.
Thank you.
All right. If you'd like to make a public appearance by speaking to the board, please utilize the Q&A portion found at the bottom of your Zoom window. In the Q&A, we would ask that you type your name, address, subject of interest, and whether you have discussed this item prior to the meeting with our district administrator or President Howery. After submitting the information, I would transfer you over to speak to the board. Thank you.
Okay, it's my understanding that we don't have any public comments at this point. We can wait a couple of minutes to see if anybody comes in before moving on. But if no one else comes in, we'll move to informational items. Starting with a presentation on the Wisconsin Partnership Program Community Impact Grant with the Natural Circles of Support. We have guests this evening. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming.
We have not had anyone register a public
Okay,
comment.
then. We will assume that there are no requests for that and move on down. Christine, Dr. Cribino, welcome. Thank you. Take it away. The floor is yours.
All right, well, I'd like to point out that we're also being joined by Dr. Jeffrey Lewis on Zoom.
Oh, welcome, Dr. Lewis.
Hello. Sorry I can't be there with you.
So are we.
Actually, I'm not sorry I can't be there with you. I'm happy to be here.
And I'd
Well,
like to
I'm joined by
introduce.
Zoom, though.
Great. I'd also like to introduce Eunhee Kim, who is an evaluator with Natural Circles. And if you'd like to just share a little bit about yourself, because this is the first time you're able to meet her, even though we've been working together.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I've never been to a board meeting, so now I know what it's like. Yeah, I've been working with Jeffrey for a while. Always been interested in children and families of the color. So yeah, it's been somewhat meaningful to me, and to me, the McFarland, this grant opportunity is something that really validated what I do. So I appreciate for that opportunity.
Well, we appreciate Christine's efforts very much in
Yes.
procuring of that grant, so.
Yeah.
Well,
you're a star.
that was a team effort. That was a lot of people who were involved in writing. And
I understand.
But Eunhee was there from the beginning, so I thought
I
it was really
understand.
important that you got a chance to meet her since she's been there from the beginning, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think, Aaron, this is going to be a joint presentation.
Yes.
We put together PowerPoints.
Yes,
and
we're gonna keep you looking, keep you moving,
Yep.
knowing who's talking at any given point. So, this is our update to you, kind of 2.5 years into this project and trying to do a couple updates for you each year. So reminder, this started in January of 2021. Just a little bit of a overview about the grant. This is news that you've seen before, but in case people haven't heard this before in the public, it started with a focus on the equity issue of our African-American Black students reporting that they don't feel that sense of belonging in our schools, and that impacts not only how they feel, but also how they learn. And so we really want to make a long-term impact on the social emotional health of our African-American Black students enrolled in the district, both now and in the future. But also this does expand to all of our students, as you'll hear in our presentation tonight. Of course, we have our partners here. We've introduced ourselves with Natural Circles of Support and UW through Dr. Privino and myself. And so there are many other people involved behind the scenes, so we are not here in any way to take credit, but we are the lucky people that get to talk here. So ultimately, an important part about this grant that we want to highlight is the way that it aligns with our strategic objectives and our mission and vision. Now, keep in mind, as you know, the mission and vision and strategic objectives were actually developed after the grant. But these ideas were there and present throughout, talking about meeting the needs of learners every day, every learner every day. And a reminder, when we use the word learner, we're talking about adults as well, in pursuit of an equitable and inclusive community committed to student belonging, achievement, and growth. And as we talk tonight, you will hear, we'll kind of go over some of the connections that we're going to make with the strategic plan. Keeping in mind all of this work is really important, that we're looking for a really systemic change in the district, such that these partnerships, which are really active and present right now, will lead to just a change in really standard operating procedures, paradigm shift in how we approach students, but developing these systems that will outlast those of us who are fortunate enough to work in the district today. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lewis for an overview of the grant goals. I think you're on mute there.
My apologies.
It's okay.
So as you see, there are 5. Just to review them really quickly. One is, at the heart of this work are the mentoring circles we have for African-American students. And so leading those is really foundational to this work. But that working with students isn't enough. So empowering staff leadership around this work is absolutely essential. And to Aaron's earlier point, that's really where we begin to sustain things. That's where the systemic cultural change will is sort of leveraged, I think. It's in your staff. And so having staff leadership around this work is really important. Engage in district-wide inquiry. Everything we do is data-driven, data-based, and inquiry-based, so that we are constantly asking questions and gathering data to better understand how things are working, what we can do better, how to improve things. And that becomes particularly important as we try to figure out not just how to be reactive and responsive even, but how do we create systemic change? What does that look like? And I think we still have lots to learn there, but I think we're well on our way. We have developed and implemented seminars and communities of practice for staff, and that's where we do a lot of the staff leadership work. And that's really been rewarding for me personally, and I've been really impressed with just how staff have engaged the issues, the ideas they're coming up with, the risks they're taking, and the way that they're learning from one another. So I feel like that's a pillar of this work for sure. And then engaging families in the community. And actually, I think, Aaron, you can say more about that. But I have been working with the parent equity, or at least sitting in on the parent equity committee, and we're committed to providing support there as well.
Excellent. So we will go through and we're going to touch on some of the accomplishments. And, you know, I am excited to say that there are so many things we've accomplished, we had to kind of duplicate our slides. So it was a good sign. So getting into some of the details a little bit for your benefit, you know, continue to have a high number of students involved in the mentoring circles. And you'll hear about this tonight and in the memorandum of agreement that you'll have an opportunity to vote on tonight. You're going to hear more about that transition to us leading the circles, and also the work that was done with our students and Dr. Briggs and Mr. Brown Jr.'s work around hate speech. That was something where Natural Circles of Support were keyly involved in that process. They were key members of that work in kind of empowering the student voice in that process, which was really, really important. That second part about empowering the staff team, as Dr. Lewis mentioned, this is an area of really exciting things and kind of some groundbreaking work. Of course, you know, we work together in our equity leadership teams, both at a building and district level. And there's important collaborations between administrative teams and the Natural Circles of Support staff. But also some real learning opportunities that are pretty unique in this, that I think that will help us kind of set a new path moving forward. You've heard about this, but I think it's important to talk about the Welcoming Student Voices Teacher Study Group, because that was a really unique thing that kind of evolved out of just conversations and some people having an idea where students and staff are participating and learning together, with students sharing some of their experiences, but also reading articles and those things together. Currently, we are participating in an understanding and managing resistance to racial equity, so a summer learning with some equity leaders in the district. We actually have a meeting tomorrow that has been really helpful and transformational, and that is supported through the work of the grant. What happens is we kind of decide, you know, what we think aligns with the goals and the purposes of this grant, and this fell in very well. Within that, too, I just want to point out that each of the buildings has some unique goals that they're working on, and where the value is in getting to that sustainability is that Natural Circles of Support, the facilitators, provide consultation to our building leadership teams, but those equity leadership teams are run by the building administrators. So I'll give you an example. Conrad Alvian Primary School is really focusing on making sure that the events that they have for the students and the school community are inclusive of all students, that we're not creating barriers for students to be engaged and to feel that they have connected with these activities. So that was really led by the staff in consultation with Dr. Lewis. And some of the things that you see, you know, that we've talked about with the high school, their leadership with affinity and social justice groups, been very integral to have that leadership and that consultation to help us as we problem solve these unique issues. In terms of engaging in district inquiry, you're going to hear a lot about this in a little bit. So that's kind of our data collection, our surveys that we've done, surveyed staff, surveyed the students involved in circling, looked at existing data, and this summer doing some administrator interviews. But you're going to hear more about that in a little bit. In terms of goal number 4, this was really new to us, creating these, we call them seminars, where our equity leadership teams came together on professional development days and focused on things which aligned with our strategic plan and the goals of the grant. So the seminars, I think, were powerful because they would provide a little bit of a new learning, and then we would get in our building teams and start to work around that. And what does that look like in our setting? So we focused on listening, racialization, and racism, the arbitrary nature of racism as foundation information, and then talked about what that looks like in our facilities and how that impacts our kids and their learning. We did some practicing with circles, talking about belonging and othering. And then we really expanded on that in our last meeting, which was really designing spaces and opportunities for belonging, with each building picking a different area that they wanted to focus on. So, for example, the high school talked about their cafeteria space as being a space where some kids just don't feel comfortable, don't feel like they belong. And again, this expands beyond race. This is all kinds of kids that don't feel comfortable, the noise, and so they're looking at ways to developing an action plan for how to make that a more inclusive and welcoming space. The middle school has a conference room space that is bare walls, and it's a frequent place where families come in and interact with staff. Looking at that space, Wabisa, looking at how we welcome our new students, what process we use for that, and Conrad Alvium's really looking at their entry. You know, you think about the Conrad Alvium Primary Schools are directors of first impressions, and the first impression is when you walk in those doors. So, looking at that, so we're very excited about that and that work that seminars can do, and we can build on that because we've had those experiences. And then lastly, as you know, we've started a district-wide family equity group. We first had a planning meeting, and then and we involved kind of parent equity leaders, actually parents of students that were equity leaders. So that was a good start. And then formed the Equity Council. We've had 2 meetings, and we had 14 people the first time and 20 the last time, and that doesn't include us. And so Dr. Priveno and Dr. Lewis were part of those meetings too, without getting into too many details about it, just to say the purpose of that group is to be advisory. So they provide, they share about their experiences, and then kind of consult about what are the needs, what are the gaps, so that all families feel engaged, all students feel engaged, and that they belong. This last time that we met, we're also open to like problem-solving more immediate issues. And the last time we met, pretty much the entire time was spent kind of analyzing, debriefing, and planning in response to the noose incident that we had shared with you as a board, and learnings from that. So just really powerful stuff, amazing people. Can't wait to meet again, which we will meet in July. So that's a bit of an overview of our accomplishments, and now we'll jump into what impact it's made. Dr. Lewis, I think you're muted again.
Doing it again. Is this me again, or is it in you and he? Am I doing this?
Yes, it says you and Yoon-hee are doing this together.
Okay, so just real quickly, so the next couple of slides, we'll talk a little bit about data that we collect as natural circles. This first slide just kind of gives you 3 key sources of data. We do a self-efficacy survey with students who are participating in natural circles, and that survey, which we've sort of developed over the years of doing this work with students at various levels, it not only gets at their sense of participation and agency and efficacy, it also gets at, to some extent, their school engagement. It gets at, to some extent, their relationships with others. And so it's a snapshot. It's a way to kind of give us a sense for really a wide range of experiences that are really related to both participation, belonging, and foundations for success in school. And we'll look at one particular example in detail in the next slide. We also have a school engagement survey that's more specifically around the levels of engagement. Yoon-hee, I don't remember, who did we do that with this year? Which level?
Middle schoolers.
Yeah, so middle schools. This is the first year we've really tested that. But again, we know that school engagement is really critical for their success, and it can also help give some indication of the extent to which they feel, again, a sense of agency and ability to participate and connect with, certainly with staff. if not other students. And then the last one is support network mapping. And there we really are looking at to what extent, where and from whom do students get information? Do they get emotional support if they have a crisis or that they need help with? They're just 4 very simple questions, but again, it gives us a little bit of insight into who students name as support for school. And even though it's a snapshot, it's a place to start to have a conversation, or it may help us identify areas that we want to improve in the students' lives. So those are the type of data that we collect. And ideally, we will collect those data and, again, use them to develop goals for either for particular kids or for the group. And when we look at the next slide, I can give you kind of an example of what that might look like. So this is the self-efficacy survey that we did with the middle school. And you can see they're just 10 questions. These are not onerous. They're really pretty straightforward questions, and we have the kids answer. And in this particular example, just real quickly, you see that there's kind of a reddish, yellow, and green. And that was just a kind of way to do a first level sort of coding of the data. That is, we're looking at what areas where do we think the school's doing reasonably well. Those are green. What are some areas where they're doing okay but need to do better? Those are yellow. And where do we have concerns? Those are red. And again, this is kind of the first level at which we went through this, but it'll give you an idea of how we think about the data and how we might use it. So looking at this, for example, you see, I'm feeling comfortable asking for help. I stay calm when something, numbers 3 and 4, and I understand why the school has the behavior rules it has. Those we all coded as, doing reasonably well. And again, it was in some ways the cutoff wasn't exactly arbitrary, but again, it's up for discussion. But those are the areas certainly where they're doing best at IMMS. Those areas where kids are. So again, if you look at number 9, you see. I understand why the school has the behavior rules it has. 2 kids said no, and that's a concern. But 9 of the 11 said either somewhat or yes. And so, again, it gives you an idea. You can see I help solve problems in my classroom. I help solve problems that come up in recess, and I listen carefully. They were all things that were kind of in the middle. They're not, a deep concern, but they're not doing as well as we'd like, right? So more kids than not said somewhat or no, basically is what that is in that yellow area. But again, it gives us kind of an idea. And as I said earlier, this is a snapshot. What this is a conversation starter. This is a way, you don't take this as the truth. You look at this and say, you might go back to kids and say, and really see, is this really true? And if so, try to understand what we can do to improve those things. Now, the areas of red are of more concern. Number 2, I'm willing to share my feelings with an adult at school. Only 1 kid said yes, and that's just not acceptable. And I mean, we're concerned about that, right? With number 5, I care about this is interesting. 5 and 6 kind of go together. I care about the feelings of kids in my classroom. I feel that kids in my classroom care about me. Well, you can see that neither one of those are good. They're more likely to report they care about the other kids than kids care about them in their class. They had 0 saying yes. Well, again, that's a red flag. And again, we don't know if it's an artifact of a particular day or week, but it's where you go and have a conversation. You investigate that. You want to make sure that if that's true, you change that. And you have to understand, like, what do we need to do so that all our kids feel that they're cared for by their peers and that they care about their peers. That's a lot of what schools are about. And then you see in number 10, I feel like IMMS is my school. And again, that one is not where we want it to be, with only 2 kids saying yes. And I won't go into a lot of detail here, but when I look at these data, the thing that strikes me about the areas of concern, and this is consistent with the other sites to some extent, certainly the high school. It seems to me that we've been successful in a lot of ways with this project so far, but where we need to do more work is for it to get deeper into the schools. It needs to impact the peers of our African American students more. And I think it needs to impact our students' relationships with their teachers more. That's how I read this now. And again, that's a conversation we will have. We will take these data and share them back with each site in August when we come back for our next seminar. And so they'll, again, we'll sort of talk through like, how do we make sense of this? And of course, we'll have other data to be looking at. So it's not just relying totally on this, but it really is a way for us to begin to think about, are there things we need to really investigate a bit more? Because we want to make sure that kids every kid can talk to an adult, and every kid feels cared for and feels like they can care, and we want them to feel that that their school is their school, right? So again, just quickly, that's how we process the data. That's how we use it. And I would just say the takeaway, and it's not just from this data, it's from all the data that I've seen so far, with the middle and high school in particular, we need to reach deeper into the schools. We need to have a greater impact. And I think that's something for us to work on in the coming year and something to bring to our equity leaders in the coming year. I think that's it for me.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Lewis. So as he was mentioning, Unhee and Jeffrey do a lot of data collection for the Circle students and with the facilitators. So they're always, most always involved in the data collection as well. I want to talk to you about some other evaluation things that we're doing. First of all, just to highlight that we're hitting all of our goals right now is huge. We started the year of COVID, so we knew that we were about 6 months behind, and when we were able to, continue working in the schools, still somewhat virtual. This has really been the first year of implementation where it's fully engagement, and with the Family Equity Council, we're really going quite well. I did have the opportunity to do a focus group with the students in the high school circles in May of this May, last month. Where did June go? It was really great. First of all, I do want to point out it's not all African American kids, that they invite their friends to come in, and so it's kids. It's a very diverse group, which is really neat. And I just wanted to share a couple of quotes that I heard from them. So I asked them a number of open-ended questions and asked them to give us suggestions. And the suggestions they said, I specifically said, there's a new administration coming, and what do you want them to know about you in Circles? And they said, please keep it. Do not get rid of it. Please come and get to know us, and please increase our time in Circles and or our frequency, so do it twice a week. But a couple of quotes that I thought were really telling about how they feel about Circles, these are verbatim quotes. I didn't go to Circles in middle schools. My friends dragged me to come here, and people invite others to come. It felt more comfortable here, more open. It felt like we didn't have to filter our words. It's hard for me to connect with people here, meaning at the high school. There are people who are similar like me, and I don't have to hide who I am. So that's how they feel in Circles. A young woman talked about respect and tolerance. I feel like since we're all very respectful of each other, even if we're not so super close, it helps us realize that we shouldn't take disrespect, because we respect each other and we listen to everything that people have to say in Circles. So we don't create a tolerance for people to say disrespectful things or to treat us disrespectfully outside of here, knowing that a bunch of random people in Circles that don't really know each other can come together and be respectful. So they were noticing that if we can do it here with people who aren't really our friends, I'm not going to take it in the school either, that people need to be treating us respectfully. I thought that was a very empowering statement from that young woman. This space is something we cherish. We find that this time very important. This was a meaningful time for us. These few minutes help me feel better for the day. I can feel more positive. The school should know the space is time for us to at least feel we belong. So those were just three from the focus groups, and that'll be reported. We do an annual report for our funding agency each year. It's about 12 pages long when we're done. So we're only giving you snapshots of data. I don't think you really want to read, although you're very welcome to. The other thing I wanted to share, because we have been so heavy in data collection this year, is that we did a survey of staff in January to just assess climate practices and awareness in the district. We had a great response rate. It helped us identify knowledge of areas where they felt they were really strong, and then it helped us identify areas of gaps, so for future PD. So some of the things, and it's not on the slide, just a few bullet points I'll share, is that they felt they had very much knowledge or much knowledge of implicit bias. That seemed to be very high. They felt they had much skill in behaviors that reflect concern and care for all students. And there was very strong agreement to, I believe all students can achieve and learn at a high level, which was nice to see. It's the assumption that all people can learn, which is a wonderful basis to start. Some of their gaps, their self-reported gaps, are microaggressions and how to intervene. So when I see something, what do I do? Addressing and eliminating bias, and talking with and hearing from students and families. So once again, the report was 45 pages, because why do you say something in 4 pages when you can say it in 45? So there's representation across all of the schools. I was really, and then you'll see you'll see some differences across the schools about what they need. And then finally, I wanted to add one quote from the staff that came from that survey. So we have many options for equity-focused work within the district. One thing I wonder is if we are at a point of being able to ask questions that significantly challenge the status quo of curriculum, classroom methods, and systems within our school. Are there things that are inequitable that we aren't really willing to challenge? If the work is going to be increasingly effective, we have to be willing to do that in all areas of the school and district. And once again, lots of examples of openness to this. And then finally, I'm going to have the joy, honor, privilege to do in-depth interviews with all the administrators this summer, 2.5 years in, to see what kind of changes they've seen. It's kind of a midpoint check-in to see where we should go for the next 2.5 years. And it'll allow me to sit down with everyone for an hour or so and get some good feedback. So I'm excited about that. So that's all the data that we've been collecting. It gives you a little bit about what we're looking for.
Dr. Kruger, how will you do that in high school?
Pardon?
Will you do it with the outgoing administration, or will you do it with both, the incoming, outgoing? How?
That's a great question. I think in my list of people I was going to interview, Matt was included as someone who's remaining, but I probably won't be doing anybody else.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
And so what's next? So this will be as part of the memorandum of agreement, which is a year-long agreement that we bring forward to you effective July 1st. Continuing with the mentoring circles, but again, preparing for a district staff member or someone hired by the district, I should say, to lead those mentoring circles. So is that a co-curricular position? Is that a new position? Those are things that we just need to kind of figure out, or does it fall within somebody's existing role? It's very important to us that the students have a voice in that process, because we need them to feel very comfortable with the person or people that are selected. And want to have some year-end celebration for circles and families as a way to bring people together. In terms of the leadership team, much of this is about continuing our leadership teams and continuing that collaboration, and also, bringing in that part of that year-end celebration together. We need to continue to evaluate the goals of the project and our progress, and as a district, we are committed to, looking at academic data as well as part of that process, and have been doing that. And we're looking to have 4 seminars this year for our equity teams. And a big focus is to, again, expand that influence outside of just those people that are in equity leadership roles. And then lastly, continue to work to involve our Family Equity Council, but other ways to involve and engage families. It's part of our strategic plan. It will be part of our new coordinator's role in the process, is to kind of oversee that work as well. So you can expect us to continue to provide ongoing updates. You know, we give you formal reports twice a year. And we just asked for you to continue to ask questions and be invested and support that work, particularly as it relates to our strategic plan and resource allocation with positions and professional development opportunities. You know, as the grant is designed in a way to begin to kind of phase out, and that the district continues to take it over, both in terms of actual roles and responsibilities, but in terms of funding to support that work. So that's what we wanted to share with you. So now I'd open it up to you for questions
Anyone? Questions, comments,
or comments.
concerns?
The one question I have, you're talking about each building level is trying to see how the whole DIPs can fit in there. It sounds like they each have a focus area. At the EC2 level, it's about how they can help support the students and make it more equitable. Is that correct? This is my question. The focus is what they're doing in the school setting. What about when these students are out of the school setting? What about opportunities provided to them for sports or extracurricular, or even summer school with transportation? Is that part of that whole discussion at the EC2 level?
Not that I know of. I don't think that has been a part of the discussion previously. I'm not, I don't sit in on those meetings directly.
Will it be eventually through the plan, though?
It could be. I think as a district, as I shared with you in the staff check-in survey, one of the results is how particularly we're serving our students who are considered economically disadvantaged. So looking at kind of what are the barriers to access that may be part of that. So to me, that aligns well with your question and an area of focus. I think it is one of those things, I can just say in my role is, it's kind of like I feel we need to get our house cleaned up and in order first before we go outside,
Yeah.
So I see the value in what you're sharing, but I also want to make sure we're doing what we can in the school setting.
And I appreciate that.
Yes.
But I think what happens beyond the school classroom, school walls, has an impact on what happens inside the school also. So
I could see the Family Equity Council providing some nice
Yes.
directions and
Yep.
ideas.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And this is just a bias that I have reading through the document. With the goals, again, SMART goals is my reference point. And I don't see these written as SMART goals, so I'm not sure how we measure them, or some of the timeline is listed annually. But that's the only bias I have. It's easier for me to understand what's happening if there's a goal in a SMART format.
Thank you.
So,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And then a couple comments, but the circles, do they continue over the summer, or are they just school year?
They're just during the school year.
Okay.
Interesting question, though.
Yeah, well, and especially with the feedback that they would like to see them more frequently, like I wonder if there's opportunity for that. Or if there's barriers for that, so it's just
I
interesting.
don't know that we've talked about that before. I'm sure transportation and those kind of issues and, I'm sure there could be some virtual, opportunities, but we have to be careful about access to.
Yeah, right,
For that.
exactly. I was just curious.
Yeah.
And then the comment that I had, and this is kind of full circle with Dr. Lewis, but I love these updates twice a year. They're always in-depth, they're very informational, and I look forward to them. But what I also love, so at the Juneteenth event, I was talking to Dr. Lewis, that was very fun, and he commented that he's seen a lot of the, like especially because of what he saw at Juneteenth, event was just a lot of the foundational work has really started to sink in. And please tell me if I'm getting what I'm taking away from it was wrong. But so as a school board member, that felt really good to know that like, okay, we're doing everything in the right direction and like experts in the field see it and all of that. And then I also had the opportunity to talk to Brittany, the new DIB coordinator. And she made a comment that maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, you know, like McFarland's reputation would have been like, people of color would say, no, I'm not gonna go there. We're not gonna hang out there. And then in the last year or two, it has shifted. And that people are feeling more welcome and belong, yes, in McFarland. So it's, that said, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. But that said a lot to me that, you know, both of these experts are seeing a really foundational shift in our community. And so thank you for doing all this work. Thank you. It's very heartwarming to learn that more people are feeling like they belong. So that's great. Thank
And it was so wonderful, okay, I'm like changing hats. It was so wonderful to see the superintendent, the principals, all the teachers at that event, school board members, sorry.
So many.
Y'all were there. So that, I know that really was heartwarming for me, but even more importantly, it was heartwarming for all the students who put a lot of time in the vision of that event and what they wanted. So to see you there, I think is very meaningful. So thank you for coming.
There were a lot of school community members there. That was really, totally echo that.
And in
That's
addition
great.
to that, several school staff that don't even live in the community, but they work here. Yeah, what a testimonial to the work that you continue to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think, you know, another interesting part about that, getting to that the fifth goal, is that was a collaborative effort between our BSU and the McFarland Equity Project, you know, to organize that event. So that says a lot,
Yeah.
too,
True.
on top of that. Because community members are getting to see these amazing kids, you know, and how they plan.
And I don't have the final total, but it'll probably be around $1,600 raised for BSU.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just doing the final reconciling of bills and whatever. So that'll
That's
be
fantastic.
wonderful.
Right?
So I didn't, that's a preview of, don't know the
Yes.
exact number yet.
And wonderful donors.
Wonderful donors, yes.
It was just a great
Amazing.
event.
It was
I mean, you couldn't help but feel good walking around and just seeing all the engagement and, man, there was great food.
Yeah, that was good
Really
food.
good
That
food.
was really good.
My compliments. But it was just one of those, like you say, it's a heartwarming thing to see things that you're trying so hard, you're working so hard to make happen, and to finally see some of it come to fruition that's a really cool thing. And I thought it was just a fantastic event. Couldn't be prouder of the kids and our community in general. It is just really, really good.
Another thing that stuck out in my mind was the number of young families that attended.
I noticed
You know,
that.
some of them I don't even think have kids in school yet, because they had really
true.
young ones.
That's true.
So I think, you know, through all your efforts, that's reaching out to the whole community.
Yep. Wonderful.
Other questions, comments?
If we don't have anything else, I can't thank you three enough.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you for
It's
joining
really
us.
Yep.
Thanks for the good news. Keep it coming. We do honestly love these reports.
Yep.
There's so many things, you know, that are difficult. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This is the encouraging stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next, let's see. We've got the results of the Parent Guardian Satisfaction Survey. Mr. Tarnitzer.
Oh, you guys are so lucky. There's so much for me. I am going to, hot off the press, for the press. More information.
There is no such thing. Ooh, maybe so.
I was wondering when we were gonna get a packet, a handout.
Right? You're in a handout. You don't have a packet.
I know,
It's like it's not happening.
that's right.
Okay, so here we are. Last time, at our last board meeting, we were able to share the results of the staff check-in survey. And now we're going to share the results of the parent survey that we did. So what you have in your packet here is the slideshow, which I'm sharing, along with an executive summary sheet and then a summary of the comments. So that's all there, but I will do my best to capture that in the time that we have tonight and welcome your questions when I'm through. So this survey, again, conducted by School Perceptions, a third-party group. They handle all the collection and the reminders well-established in the area. The survey there was a 2-week window at the end of March, and while you'll see the 25% participation rate, that's still 684 people. So a lot of comments. I would love to see that to be a little bit higher, and I think one of the things that our district has done is we do tend to survey our parents a fair amount, and there's a little bit of fatigue, including we just had the strategic planning things, but I feel good that we'll be able to increase that participation rate. But as you will see, when you look at the results, the distribution is a little weighted to Waubesa, and I would say the high school is underrepresented, right, because they have the most kids. But, pretty fair, distribution compared to our student population. A little bit skewed, but the goal is that you want to have, if you had data on your responders and your non-responders, you could compare them and feel like they're pretty representative. But we'll take what we can get. Grade-wise, you can see, between this 9 and 14% for the grade level their kids attend. In terms of services, one of the things I really noticed was parents of students who receive free or reduced price lunch were very underrepresented, because our percentage is about 15%, and so to have 5%.
Historically,
that was something.
that's kind of been the trend.
Yeah, so that's
It's difficult.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Are there any other ways that you're able to determine what a family's, socioeconomic condition might be other than the free and discounted lunch? There really
Not
isn't.
not on an individual family basis.
Yeah.
Really do rely on that. And here's the, the race, ethnicity makeup. Yeah, fairly representative of our student population. I would say where I see as being underrepresented is the more than one race a little bit. I'd have to look at the numbers, but fairly representative of our student population. A reminder, and I shared this with you last time, but we do plan to continue to do this survey annually. Some districts do it less often. I think for the foreseeable future, we're planning to do it annually to monitor our progress. So this is largely benchmark data. It's helpful to focus on the percent who agree or strongly agree. There is comparison information. Just be careful. A small percentage change when you compare it can really impact the comparison results. So we're pretty cautious about that. It gives us information. And also, as this board has expressed and I share, is just because we may be doing better than another district doesn't mean that doesn't mean we need to keep working at it. The data is average across buildings, and there are significant differences when you're looking at the data by building. So that is something to keep in mind. So overall strengths, I organized this a little bit differently for you today, just with some kind of theme in bold. Facilities, 98%. I can't imagine ever getting 98%. No offense, parents, guardians, but to agree on anything, clean and well-kept. And, I'm always first to give credit to our buildings and grounds crew, but Jeff Mahoney does a nice job reminding us that we are all responsible for the facilities, and that cleanliness and things being well-maintained requires all of us to take care of it and to clean up after ourselves and to respect the property. So that was great. In terms of climates, we're in the 90, 91, and 92 regarding their child being treated with dignity and respect, feeling safe, and feeling welcomed. So I think, and that feeling welcome is that the parent feels welcomed. So those are, you'd want it to be 100%, of course, but I think those are nice indicators of our climate. In terms of parent-guardian involvement, 90% feel they know how to support their child's learning, which I know when the administrative team saw this, we were really excited to see that. And 87% feel like they have at least one staff member they feel comfortable contacting with an idea or concern. Again, you want that to be higher, but that's still, 87%, it's a lot of people. And lastly, the 85% feeling that the school provides opportunities for parent involvement, and that's certainly an area of focus with the strategic plan. In terms of discipline, 90% feel like if their child breaks a rule at school, they're treated fairly. That's a really important statistic to have. And student support, 88% feel their child gets the help that they need when they need it. So definitely some positive things with that. Communication has been a real focus, as you know, this year, and will be moving forward. And I thought it was nice to see that 86% agree that communication is timely and transparent. Those are two big words. So that was nice to see. And 80% say it's either good or great, our school communication. So certainly that's something we'd want to see a little bit higher, and we have action steps, as we'll talk about in a little bit, to do that, but still pretty impressive. And 86% agreeing that they're satisfied with how much their child has learned this year. Knowing that their child has some impact on that as well. So in terms of growth areas, this was crystal clear when we went through and analyzed these results. With only 75% strongly agreeing that they're satisfied with school efforts to address bullying. Our plan, which is to review and revise our bullying prevention and intervention work is well-timed to be doing that this summer. Certainly, there are some things that are out of our control in that regard, but there are a lot that are in our control. And so that follows well with something you'll hear a little bit later about behavior. Only 78% saying that there's a healthy culture at our school. And I want to really kind of look into that. My thought is, a theory is related that's related to the bullying one above it. If you feel like the district and the schools, that there's bullying happening and you're not satisfied with that, I would call that a not healthy culture.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that those are pretty close. Still, something to be concerned about. Only 85% say that most days their child enjoys going to school. And that's just alarming to me, especially and I told you not to look at the comparisons, but this is one where it's 18 percentile compared to other, similar schools, districts. So, that requires further exploration. But maybe it is all tied together. I mean, the three indicators could be related. Only 80% felt like they have opportunities to provide feedback to school and teachers, and that's 38, compared to other schools. So So we certainly need to give more opportunities for parents to give feedback, and it needs to go beyond surveys. You know, I know the administrative team has talked about kind of drop-ins, Zooms, you know. I said coffee with a soup because I love coffee. But, you know, different forums, more family nights, just a variety of opportunities for people to give feedback. I think it's a good idea. The communication I mentioned, only 83% feel they're updated on how their child is doing at school. So we're working on, as you know, a communication plan that provides clarity for teachers on when and how to communicate about students, and clarity for parents and guardians on how to get information. It's confusing. And I know specifically the middle school, I know, has focused a lot on how to use Canvas versus Infinite Campus and made tutorials and things, and I think that's a model we need to replicate and simplify things as much as possible. And then in terms of comments, this was really helpful because what people said is there's just how things are communicated, when things are communicated from building to building just seems to really vary. And they're very focused on having communication that you can read on your phone. That is a big thing. So we have like a weekly communication that comes out in a Google Doc, and that you have to turn it sideways, and that's not preferred. So the s'more works better because you can, so we're working on that. Actually, we'll be talking about it tomorrow at A-Council. As well as clarity on, you know, classroom versus school versus district communication. There's some redundancy, some things that get missed, so just tightening that up a little bit. So now I'm going to get into some of the data, and I feel like that was a pretty comprehensive summary, so I'm going to go pretty fast here. But if there are things that come up, you know, you just let me know. The indexes, remember, that's all 1 to 5, with 5 being strongly agree. And they have these 5 categories: informed, included, educational excellence, atmosphere, and experience. And you see they're all very close in the 4 range, kind of, you know, middle of the road, which I know isn't how we see ourselves or want to see ourselves. But, you know, not a lot of relative strengths or weaknesses to be gained from this. So when you get into the individual items, we did some items are green for being a strength, and red, similar to what you just saw. In terms of leadership and communication, you see school board gets some recognition there for doing what you can to make the district successful, district administration as well, and the district being headed in the right direction. Again, want to see those higher, but certainly a good start. In terms of a rating, the communication, I mentioned this one earlier in the summary. You can see that visually. I think when you see it visually, it looks a lot more impressive than just 80%. There's 3% that say poor, so much to learn there. How would you like to receive school information? What an interesting question to ask. They want emails, 96%. Automated phone text notifications. We don't do a lot of text notifications, so that is something we could look at, including. Now, granted, for every person that says they like it, there's some that say they don't. So, and then you can kind of see as it goes down the list in terms of how
Our
they like to
meetings are
receive
real high on that one.
Yes,
Real high.
yes, yes, right.
Can I have a question about this one, actually, if I can
Yeah.
interrupt? Okay, it was select all that apply.
Yeah.
Never mind, if I read the slide, I wouldn't have a
Yep,
question.
yep, so they could have picked every one, they want them all.
Okay, got it.
They
Thank
want to
you.
receive it from every which way. In terms of school experience, we mentioned the facilities, and parent involvement, know how to support child's learning. You can see high percentages, high comparisons on those. School communication, I mentioned this one, feeling welcome in my child's school. I put that as, I highlighted that because, you know, 90 is a strong percentage. You know, certainly we want to see that higher, but just jumped out to me. When we get in the 90s, that's pretty solid.
That's the average across the district, right, Aaron?
Correct, Yes,
And
yeah,
by
all of
buildings,
these are
that would be
average.
vary.
Yep, and each building, I should have said this when I mentioned that, each building has their own individual results that they're going through with their leadership teams as well, to look at their unique things. I will say there's less variability on this one than I saw in the staff one,
Yes.
between buildings, so. Get staff treating child with respect. School teaches with materials that reflect my family's cultural and racial backgrounds. I was initially tempted to say this is a strength at 85%, but it could very well be that, you know, certain people never feel represented and some people always do. So I just was cautious about over-interpreting that, and that certainly is an area focused in our district. School has high expectations for my child. I know as a staff, we've been talking about raising our expectations for kids quite a bit. You know, I think we tried to scaffold things coming out of the pandemic, and we want to provide support, but continue to raise our expectations for our kids. The bullying one comes up here. Interesting how those two follow right after each other. You know, 91%, my child feels safe at school. 75%, I'm satisfied with addressing bullying. So, it's an interesting thing. Mentioned that about being treated fairly with the rules, updated how you're doing, and one staff member, so you see that there. Feedback I mentioned earlier. This is one we talked about a lot as an administrative team, and this did have some variability from building to building. Overall, my child is able to handle the emotional challenges of school. So 88%, you know, you'd want to see that higher in a 31st comparison, which is something we talked about.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Yeah, that's a
now.
good point. So, you know, I think the staff, you know, would say it's more of a concern. And then you see that healthy culture one that I highlighted. Most days my child enjoys going to school. Wah, wah, wah. You don't want to say a little higher than that. Although, you know, I don't know. I don't know if we went back in all of our educational careers, how we would feel. Homework, ask a question about homework. So 70% saying just right. It's like the, you know, Goldilocks there. And, you know, too little or too much, doesn't know. So, you know, it's an interesting statistic. I think schools in general have been trying to have less homework because we want to be able to see them do that. And with the technology that is in front of us, that I am trying to ignore, but the truth is with ChatGPT and other automated intelligence, people can produce a paper without writing it. So, working on those things. Some participation information, and I know Tom mentioned that earlier about the younger grades too, wanting people to be involved in activities. So, you know, some of those 14% are by choice, and that's okay too. So that's important. Reliable internet, this is something, it'd be interesting to have seen this over time. You know, that was one of the things other districts really struggled with during the pandemic. And we didn't see the extremes as others did. And we provided hotspots and many other creative things.
That's quite remarkable.
Yeah, 99%. Of course, there are also people completing an online survey.
Yeah.
So
Fair point.
Very true.
might be a skewed data, but that is our experience in schools. And this last one, you know, I want people to have extremely likely, you know, to recommend our school to a friend or a family member. You know, 7.67 is just not, I think, what our district would aspire to. So I'll be very excited to show you the results next year, I think. So that's kind of the question and comments. You can see there's a little bit more information in here. And, you know, don't expect you to have it all analyzed and memorized right this second. So welcome your questions now or at any time.
Anyone have questions, comments?
I do. So, This is all very interesting. As you know, my brain loves data. I would be curious because, so I know we've talked about like building it, breaking down the data, like how it varies per building. But I wonder because, so in terms of what our population identifies as, and it's 85% white.
Right.
And so it's, okay, my math might be a little weird here, but if we took all the other percentages and how the data is skewed that way, or not skewed, but how it shows up for if we take all of the ones who are white out of it, how that data looks.
Yeah, and I was just, thankfully, was smart enough to stop sharing my screen. Because I'm trying to see what level of access that I have to break down that data. But I'll look.
Okay.
I don't want to waste everybody's time.
Yeah. No, I mean,
There
I
are
would just be
multiple ways
curious,
to
right?
disaggregate.
Okay.
And it's fairly user-friendly. I did give them some feedback, and it could be more user-friendly. But yeah, break down by different
Ethnic group.
race and ethnicities and just see. I like
Yeah.
that. That's a good idea.
I think this is great. I would caution, I just don't think we got enough
Right.
respondents
Mhm. Be
to
careful,
like
right?
make major decisions based on this. And I will say, you know, somebody like me who did complete the survey has three kids, right? So I had to
you
check
have
all
3
those
times.
boxes. So
Thank you.
I think you have to, when you're looking at this, I think, unfortunately, as great as this is, I don't know that it gives us
Yeah.
what we were looking for, as far as how the parents actually feel. I mean, the ones that, I'm glad people took the survey, and I'm glad that they offered comments. I just think that there's a lot more that we didn't hear from.
Sure.
And we have to figure out how do we get them more involved, so that we can have a better perspective on how we're actually doing.
Yeah, the kind of that balance of don't disregard it, but don't over emphasize it and think
Yeah.
it speaks for all
I
parents.
mean,
I appreciate
25,
that.
that's
Right.
75% of our parents that didn't complete this survey.
Right.
So when we're making
Correct.
major decisions, I don't know that this is an accurate depiction of that.
Yeah, I think the challenge is how do you reach the hard-to-reach families? And that question's been out there for years.
It is.
But there is a solution, we just haven't found it yet,
Yeah.
you know?
The one thing it didn't occur to me until right this second is, so if you have 684 people that filled this out, and that's a 25% response rate, to me, that means every parent and guardian is included in that. And I do wonder sometimes, do households just, oh, I filled that survey out, okay, you covered us. You know what I mean? If it's a two-parent household, I could see that being a dynamic
For sure.
too. So,
That definitely happened in my household.
It happens.
Yeah.
in my
Happens
house.
at all.
right, because I mean,
Like
it's
just
a,
one household,
So maybe
yeah.
that's a question that we ask on the survey.
yeah,
You know, you answering for yourself or for your
Yeah.
family.
Right,
And
and
how-
when you create these percentages of completion, are you doing it based on household or
Individuals.
individual?
Yeah, so if it's 684, like, and we were supposed to fill it out per student, right? Like one for each student that we
Well,
had
it
in the
was- You were
district?
able to check a
Yeah.
box, but then it asked specific questions based on that school. too.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that was counted in this. When
Yeah.
you're looking at
Yeah.
the overall,
I can ask
overall
them.
There's-
summary, like, was
Yeah.
I counted 3 times? Was I counted one
Right.
time?
I think you were counted once in the response rate.
Interesting. It would
Like
be
684 unique responses.
Okay, so that would be interesting to know what percentage of our student population that covers,
Yeah.
right? Because it could maybe cover a higher percentage than 25%. I
It
mean,
could.
it's still 25% of parents, to your point, or
But you have 3
guardians.
kids, you know,
Right,
Right.
it's your help in the math.
yeah.
That is an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can check with them on how they determine the response rate.
And you know, my theme, the other thing is when you're answering questions as a parent and you have issues with something, let's say you're filling it out for 3 kids, but maybe something that's specific to a certain school, your theme's still gonna be the same when you're answering the survey. So I might think that, I don't know, the middle school's not handling something properly, but probably my response when you're asking these questions is gonna be
Yeah.
the same. Because I feel like it's not being handled in the district. Do you understand what
The
I'm saying?
district questions, right?
Yeah.
One building can influence a
Yeah.
district question
Yep.
for the district-wide questions. I think it does, you know, what I appreciate about it is it gives us some direction and, you know, in data, you always talk about like triangulation of data. So if I hear the same thing from my family equity council and from the person at the grocery store and the staff survey said similar things, you know, you start
Yeah.
to paint a picture.
Sure.
Certainly the bullying one, I think, is
Yeah.
one that, you know, that just jumped out at me as an area of focus. Yeah, I wouldn't tie it to anybody's salary. Please.
Noted.
So, but it's important. And I want people to feel like it is worth their time to fill it out, because we're gonna look at what they say.
This comment's interesting. Our kids live between 2 houses. Often communication only goes to one house. When we mail things out, do we just send to a primary address? No? Okay.
No, it just depends on how they're listed in Infinite Campus. So sometimes, if they're listed as a secondary household, then they will get it, so.
Okay.
But typically, only one parent fills out the registration, so. Phone calls, often, if we're making a phone call, we'll typically, based on our knowledge of the student, you know, where do they lay their head most of the time? Because it is difficult to reach, you know, if it's a 2-parent household, it is difficult to reach both parents. But I often will, when I have those conversations, I'll often say to a parent, you know, you know, will you relay this information to their, you know, other parent? And typically they do. And they're like, yeah, we talk all the time, it's fine. You don't have to come, I got it. So, but we always welcome those calls too.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we will move on to Edgewood College Accelerated Teacher License Residency Partnership. Mr. Tarnitzer.
Oh,
You didn't want to break from talking, did you?
tonight. Well, I put this in the McFarland minutes for you to see, but just to kind of reiterate. So Edgewood College has reached out to Dane County Schools to address the teeter, I don't know what word that is, teacher shortage. And they created this nice opportunity, and they're looking for districts to sign on. I shared this with you as an informational item. The board doesn't need to take action, but per our board policy, we want to make sure that you're informed. But basically what they've said is we will offer an accelerated master's program at a reduced rate to staff members you send our way who have a bachelor's degree. And that may not be in teaching, and help them become a teacher. So focus specifically on, you know, special education or regular education classes. The district, there's no cost to us, there's no financial impact to us. We have a decision about which staff members we refer and who we don't, and so we'll need to promote this. We do provide a in-house mentor as part of it because it is an accelerated program. It's entirely online, so it does require some of that overseeing. So I'm excited about what opportunity it can bring for us, and I know, all of us are competing for a smaller and smaller pool of educators, so I certainly wouldn't want to be the district that doesn't do this. And it's almost, it's almost half off on the credits. So that's pretty amazing.
And the
So,
person has to agree to 3 years in the district,
yes.
which is a great incentive, I think, for us to
It's
get
done
involved with this.
done on the private side all the time, all the time.
And
You
that's
you
good.
find yourself paying for folks' educations, and then they
Sure.
sign ARA, and they're gone to greener pastures.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
It's very similar to our Grow Your Own program.
Yep.
You know, that you're familiar with, that Lauren Arango has developed and with some success, so.
I think we like it.
Yeah.
There's one thing I don't like, Aaron.
Yeah.
And as a former educator, I take offense on the bulletin or the poster that talks about it's easy. And there's nothing easy about being a teacher. And we get criticized as it is. Our teaching is so easy. And here Edgewood puts the word easy on it. I think what they meant is to streamline the process or the
Yeah,
duration
the-
of training.
the process is
Because
easy.
it really does all educators a disservice when they say it's easy.
Yeah, not the job is easy, but the program
It's
is.
semantical, I understand, but
Yeah.
not everybody.
It's still not a great
agrees.
word.
It is not
No,
a good word at
It's
all.
not the ideal word to use in that circumstance.
Yeah, and as a current Edgewood College student, I would not call the program easy.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the WEVA monthly report. Mr. Mooney.
Sure, that'll be me, thanks. Our last meeting, it was strictly a business meeting. The meeting was focused on the budget, budget implications, including teacher salaries, bonuses, insurances, benefits, and interest rates. Again, the overall 22-23 budget of WEVA is $17,911,755. Their expenses run about $1 million per month. 1.4 million comes back to McFarland as an oversight fee. I think we've talked about that before. This year's per pupil state funding was $8,224. With the anticipated increase, again, it's just an anticipated increase of $374 per student this coming year, but it's uncertain at this time. A 5% suggested raise for staff was approved by the board. End-of-year bonuses, including $315,500, was approved. And a $20 hour minimum in merit pay for non-certified staff was approved also. So just so you see where they compared to what, or we compared. And that was my summary for that.
Excellent.
It's interesting, Tom, that they do have merit pay and bonuses. So, kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a different deal.
yep.
Yeah.
Different altogether. So.
Okay. CISA 2 convention. Mr. Mooney.
Okay, the CISA 2 annual convention was last week. Again, CISA 2, all the CISAs are divided geographically. With our cluster, it's not that. Again, 49 school districts, 6 unified high schools. The boundaries run from Wisconsin Heights to Beloit to Lake Geneva to Union Grove. They're divided into 11 clusters. McFarland is in Cluster C, along with Deerfield, Monona Grove, and Madison. Each cluster has one representative to serve on the Board of Control, and I will be the representative for Cluster C again, which includes, again, Deerfield, Monona Grove, and Madison. The guest speaker last week was Dr. Nicole Hester from True North Consultation. And she talked about well-being, being different than wellness. We talk about, we give staff, we talk about wellness PD. I'm not sure if we're talking about the well-being of staff. The dimensions of personal well-being include emotional, occupational, intellectual, environmental, financial, social, physical, and spiritual components of a person. Then there's the community well-being. And the questions that we as a board should be asking ourselves is how can we, as a school board, identify ways we can be more supportive of the well-being of the educators in our district. And the note I would make is the teacher's place, we keep piling things on, in administrative place. We keep piling things on. We don't take anything off. Where does the time come from? Is it impacting their overall performance when dealing with students? And then another question, how does the culture of our district support or challenge the efforts to sustain the well-being of our educators? So, that's something that I haven't thought about too much, but that's a good differentiation. And then there's a systems impact on well-being. How do the spoken and unspoken rules and policies in our district support or challenge efforts to sustain the personal or community well-being? Really things to be, to take a look at. And again, my takeaway is that I think it's imperative for the board to listen to all the educators in the district, particularly the teachers, because what's happening is happening in the classroom. And that's where we have the biggest impact on kids. Lastly, the next CISA 2 annual convention will take place June 18th, 2024 in Whitewater. And that concludes that report.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
sir. Any questions or comments for Tom?
Would you want to share those questions in an email? Or
Sure.
your notes from it with me or all the board members?
I can send them to you.
Thank you.
The comment I was going to make, Tom, is, you said, we keep piling things on, and I'm thinking you're saying, it's the job, it's educational. The truth of the matter is, as we pile more things on, there is no other way than for the teacher to finally have to stop doing certain things. And I always, in my mind, think we're well-intentioned, we want to do this, we want them to do this, we want to do this. But what are the good things that teachers were doing that they can no longer do, or they can no longer afford to do? And that is always the thing that I as an educator, always grappled with.
Well, there's only so many
That's right.
slices of pie out there.
Exactly.
And once
Yeah.
they're all being
Yeah.
filled, something has to give.
Something gives,
You know,
exactly.
anytime you get something, you have to give something,
Exactly,
in
Yeah.
a situation like this.
right.
Anything else?
No, but thank you, Tom.
Thanks very much, Tom. School safety written drill evaluation notification and review per Wisconsin State Statute 11807 CP.
Assuming we don't have one in summer school, this might be the last one for a little bit. But yes, had a medical hold, as you see detailed in your report at the high school.
Yeah.
Top of your head, how many would you say we've had over the course of the school year?
It feels like across the district, it feels like
It's not that many.
1 to 2 a month.
Yeah,
That's not so bad.
no,
That's not so bad when you consider it's a number of schools and whatever it is, 2,500
yeah.
students now, something like that.
And the use of the medical hold is something that did not happen
No,
when I first started here, and it's
Right.
something that I'm really, really impressed with. The privacy, as you saw in this
And there's-
situation.
and there's always comments about what can we do to improve it and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which I think is really cool.
Okay? Then, District Administrator's Report. Mr. Tarnitzer, take it away.
So, lots of recognitions to share, and feel free to jump in. Of course, graduation, just so well done. Kim Wink organizing that for the first
She
time.
did a great job.
Excellent job. Students did great, families did great, all of you did well. I think it's such a well-run machine, and it was just a really neat, I think, as a first-time superintendent, to be a part of it. Definitely have some work to do on shortening my speech and making it as
Well,
impactful as some, but.
I don't know. I thought the speeches were all really
Yeah.
impressive.
They were.
I
I
thought they
mean,
were too.
there wasn't anything short-sighted. Everybody put a lot of thought and effort into, I was just
I was happy
I
too.
was
that-
thoroughly impressed with it.
Yeah, and I was happy that they weren't all same old, same old. They
Right.
were quite diverse.
Yeah.
The message was,
And I think having a faculty speaker and a student speaker,
Yeah, I think that's
as
cool.
opposed to, you know, the valedictorian and salutatorian kind of thing, I thought that was excellent.
that was nice.
And I thought Chris McGrath did a great job.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, you did.
He represented the faculty very well, as did Charlie.
How, did those get voted on?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was great. I mean, I heard a lot of positive comments about both
Yeah.
speakers, and I think the students, which this is all about them, right? So I think they felt like
Yeah.
Mr. McGrath, you know, his speech really was impactful, and I know Charlie, they felt like very, very much incorporated them as a class, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know, we have the advantage of being able to see everybody's face.
Yeah, the
as they
reaction.
listen to the speech.
It's a
right?
huge
So you could
advantage.
see the impact.
It's nice to see them listening,
Yes.
you know, they're all attentive, and, yeah.
And I like having the entire board on the stage.
Yeah.
If for no other
It was
reason,
tight.
if for no other reason, that's a great reason to have everybody up there, is just to see the looks on, you know, I didn't see kids, you know, squirming around, waiting for things to get over and get on to the next
Yes.
whatever. I just thought, of course, I always think graduation is great. It's just a
Yeah.
wonderful
It is.
time.
Did they shorten the stage this year?
I don't know.
It felt smaller.
Because last year, where we sat last year, went
Yeah.
very close to the bleachers. And this year, there was a huge gap there.
It was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
It was
Yeah, I
just
don't
a
know. It's
little
my
bit.
first time up there.
Yep.
So, but there, I know, just in talking with Kim, there was definitely, she was already had some notes for next time and things to do differently, so. You know, we added this year, the letters from the teachers
Yeah.
during
Yes.
rehearsal, and so, you know, some nice things.
I didn't get my corsage at halftime because I was just going to pick it up off my chair.
Okay.
It wasn't there.
Oh,
I got up on stage.
That might have been my fault.
Did you take mine?
Well, we had, Kate and I still needed ours too, and someone said, oh, they're just right there on the chairs, so I just grabbed two.
But you notice they left the pin on yours.
Oh.
I don't know if you,
No, I didn't notice that.
sorry.
Well, then that wasn't, I don't know.
No, I'm joking.
But I didn't hear any parent
No.
or staff or student afterward talk about the length of the graduation.
okay,
Because it was quite lengthy compared to other
Yeah.
ceremonies, but I didn't hear
Oh.
a single word.
I thought it went wrong.
and the temperature was nice too.
It was.
Yep, very
it was
comfortable.
perfect.
Yeah.
I thought it was very
That's
comfortable.
important.
Yep.
It was-
Yeah.
yeah.
The day helped.
Yeah, we are getting, you know, getting a little tight in terms of capacity, but.
Mhm.
Well, I was just wondering, are we planning on continuing to always use the gym? Because I know the one year with COVID, we
think
did it
so.
outside, and,
I think so. I wasn't
Okay.
involved in that decision at the outset, but it certainly ended up being the right decision on the
Well-
day that we had, but
Mm.
I just think it's so unpredictable
I
to be
agree.
outside.
It is.
I was told there was virtually no interest in having it outside.
Yeah.
the only
It's-
reason I ask is because it seemed pretty tight
Space,
this
yeah.
year.
It was crowded.
Yeah,
No
right.
doubt.
Yeah.
And then your options become an alternate site or
Offsite.
ticketing,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then each family gets so many tickets.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to disinclude anyone from an event like that.
Mhm.
Right.
So, something to consider. And also, before that, I had the WEVA graduation at Madison College. I wasn't able to attend. Dr. Brown attended and Tom attended as well. And it sounded like a great event.
Isn't it?
And I think the comment that I kept hearing was how many people were there, you know, and how that has grown
Yeah.
over time, so.
And
if
I
you
do
have
have
anything
those
to share.
numbers, Aaron.
Do you?
You have the numbers?
do have the
All
numbers.
right.
Let's hear it.
I can tell you the first year was pretty small.
It is vastly different now.
Yeah.
Again, the WEVA graduations were held at the Madison College Gymnasium. The first was the Destinations Career Academy. That was like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Very similar to a very typical high school graduation, captured with some uniquenesses, though. Again, there's 5 pathways, and they identified which students were focusing on the pathways, for example. And I'm going to just review these just to, so you have an idea. Business management and administration, there were 25 students. Information technology, 14. Heather, health sciences, 26, with one of the McFarland students. Instruction with 8 students, with another McFarland student. And then law and justice had 6, total of 79. What was interesting is that they had a slide show behind or on the side of the stage. So it just captured many of the graduates, just their picture, their name, and maybe what they were going to go into. But during the graduation, one of the speakers also gave the history of the graduation cap, the turning of the tassel, and throwing caps into the air. I'd never known it.
I couldn't either.
I would say 89% of those attending graduations have no idea what it's about. But I thought it was a great part of the graduation, so students and families had that history. Then in the afternoon, WEVA had their graduation, Insight School of Wisconsin included. There are 350 WEVA graduates.
Wow.
70 additional graduated from the Insight School of Wisconsin. And once again, they gave the PowerPoint show of the graduates, both prior and during the ceremony. They gave the history of the caps again. So totally, there was 499 students that graduated from the WEVA. Again, a couple things, exceptional student speakers, similar to here. And the setting at Madison College is like a welcome to the future college environment for the students. A great transition between their high school career to a higher education career. I thought it was a great setting. Seating was tight for parents and families, of course. But again, if you ever have a chance to go to a WEVA graduation, I would encourage you to do that.
It is. It's a moving event. It's different than a
Different in
typical.
kind.
Yeah. The graduates are different in their own, ways, and it's really a great experience, and I would recommend it for anybody that can spend, a few hours.
And it's probably the first time that the senior class had ever been together
Sure.
in their whole career.
Yeah, that's kind of
Wow.
fun.
That's the uniqueness of that
Yeah.
kind of education.
true.
They're from everywhere.
So compliments to the staff at WEVA and certainly the director, because they really have pulled all this together to make it quite an event. Rightly so, to honor all the high school seniors.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Other things, we had our staff recognition program, so thank you everyone that was able to attend. We were flexible after we lost a squirrel, and made it work. Thank you, Angie, for all your
There was a power outage,
organization.
and they had to move it from
Flexible.
Performing Arts Center to
Yes.
Indian Mound the last half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, the high school had no power. And then they said, oh, there's power. And then they said, nope, there's not power. Yes, and this was,
Walked over to Indian Mound.
a new format, and I received some positive feedback. This is where all staff were expected to attend and celebrate our staff that were recognized.
I thought it was a great idea.
It seemed to work out well.
I thought so.
Yeah, I thought having all the staff there was good. The only thing I had was when I asked one retiree if her husband had come. He said, well, she didn't know that family were invited. I asked another retiree, and she, according to her, she said, well, ask the principal, but they said families were not invited. So I think it was maybe just miscommunication,
There's definitely some
misinterpretation.
miscommunication.
I don't think that's the case.
Well, there were some families there.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
so
you know.
obviously there's.
But I'm
some-
just saying
No.
that.
No, it's
that's-
helpful.
That's
Make
what
it clear.
happened.
You have to reemphasize it.
That's the first time. Very, very clear.
Yep. Yep.
The other thing is.
It was an excellent event.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
And I enjoyed it. The only thing Aaron, is that I felt uncomfortable as a school board member sitting in the front row.
Oh, yeah?
I would have been
I
more
kinda agree with
comfortable
that.
if we had been off to the side
Yeah, I
and
kinda agree.
retirees were sitting in the front row.
I agree with that.
Because that's why we were there, is to
Yeah.
recognize the retirees.
It's a good
And I
thought.
just felt uncomfortable
It's a good
sitting
thought.
there.
Well, you should have told me that
That's true. That was just where Craig and I put our stuff down.
Yeah, I don't think, there weren't.
There
no
was
Oh, I
signs.
thought we were
no
supposed to
direction.
sit there.
No, no, no,
Oh.
no.
No,
Craig, did you tell us we were to sit
Maybe.
there?
Oh, that's true, maybe you did.
might have.
I was,
I can't say I did.
I don't remember seeing the signs on the
No, maybe
chairs that
about
we
it.
just set up.
That's right.
But I thought the blue notes.
I like
yeah, that was a
Excellent
really
touch.
great
What a
addition
touch.
to
Well,
that.
Yeah,
Boy,
Yeah,
they
Great
were
send
good.
yeah, they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
on
They're
their
a
summer
great group.
break yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great way to send it off.
Yep, they really wanted to do that.
That's awesome.
Really did. Yeah, so that was great,
Yep.
you know, but that's the past. Now we're on, summer school is rolling, so thank you to everybody involved in that. Melissa Fole, Carly Cherick, Kelly Vetter, and so many other people that helped direct, especially those first few days, and, you know, Lauren and Jess and Emily, and, you know, I got there and I just distracted people, I think. But people did a great job and off to a great start, so the session will end, and then there'll be another session in July 10th through 20th.
It really took a whole team effort
Yeah.
to get those kids where they were supposed to be.
Oh, my
So
goodness, yes.
it's amazing what you guys do.
Yeah, it is really special. And Buildings and Grounds is off to a great start, my goodness. They're doing amazing things already, and so just really appreciated for them, all the repair work they're doing, including in my office today. And of course, we talked about Juneteenth a little bit. We had Pride in the Park, where we had board members and school staff being dunked or helping people be dunked, or many other things involved in the organizing, so a really well-attended event.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I thought
Really
so.
impressed.
very, very impressive.
I wasn't quite sure when they had to change the location.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is gonna
That was
turn out, but
amazing.
It was.
Yep.
I mean, that was last minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they would have been able to fit everybody
They
down
wouldn't
at
have.
Larson Park.
No.
Probably
No.
The
not.
number of vendors and people
Yeah,
participating.
Probably not.
So many people there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, and then I got some pictures for you. So, you know, I don't know who I was talking to about this, but, you know, one of the things we really learned during the pandemic, coming back from the pandemic, was about the value of being outside and reading outside and spending, you know, because then you could take your masks down, remember that? So, and it was just fun for me to see that, people out there reading, enjoying a nice summer day to drop everything and read. Ms. Presser's second grade class, they wrote some opinion letters, sent them off to the White House, and then got a letter back and a picture too from President Biden. So really exciting. Those are
That's
those
cool.
memories, right, as a kid. You just think so, special moment there. The Eco Club brought in the trash lab for fifth grade students. That's something that's happened before. I know when we had Dane County come in and talk about some of the things that they do. This is one of the things that they mentioned, that partnered with the district for a long time to provide that and talk about how to minimize your waste to students. So it's always exciting to see. The end of the year picnic, as we send our fifth graders, getting them ready out for sixth grade, they're so excited, and they are so ready to be in sixth grade. So excited for them, and a reminder, they'll have a unique experience. They'll have the middle school to themselves with eighth grade leaders on the first day of school next year.
That's a
First
great
time
idea.
ever, yeah. First time
Love
ever.
that.
Speaking of sixth grade, the Tech Ed Maze Challenge. So, you know, I've noticed, and I really always appreciate Alan Kinnaman because he's so good with the social media, but you can see them, and I think the thing that these pictures strike me with is just how happy everybody is. Just how smiley they all are, so.
And that's middle school.
That's middle school.
Oh, that's six. Never mind.
That's
Yeah,
just a big
sixth
thing
grade.
of middle school even.
Moving on to eighth grade, the recognition ceremony with some special people in this picture, as you can see, and really great event. That's where I was when Tom was at WEVA, and just a really wonderful event, well coordinated, and you know, a chance for people to kind of dress up. And you know, when Tom was talking about how they held the the event at Madison College for graduation as a next step. That's one of the things that we decided to do a few years ago, was start holding that at the high school as a transition event for our eighth graders. It used to be in the middle school gym. So just a really fun event and exciting. And, the annual staff trash can races. Very exciting, a bit of a controversial, and I didn't say controversial, but Brett Jondal and Jamie Thomas were sure they had won, as you can see from this picture up here. They had to actually go around the corner. So if you look behind them, you'll see with the black hat, that's Fred Bartman, realizing their mistake. And then you will see him with Jody Fisher holding the trophy. So Brett's like, hey, we won, and Jamie's like, woo, we won, and no, you didn't, actually. So we did lose a group. They were not injured, thankfully, but they didn't make it around the first corner.
Oh, no.
So, going a little too hot coming out of the gate.
That
So,
happens sometimes.
that's a great tradition. I have myself been in the can before, and it is scary. Jamie said she loved it, so better her than I.
Who's in the helmet?
I
I,
think probably the riders, huh? Oh,
Yeah.
the full helmet.
this down here?
Yeah.
Is that Cameron maybe, or Sierra? Let's
Huh.
see. I think it might be Sierra League.
Looked like
I
everyone had a
think.
good time.
Yeah, because that's Cameron and that's Sierra. Yep,
Yeah.
Sierra League.
There we are.
I love that.
So fun.
The end of the year celebration for our classroom librarians. So this is a nice thing for you to just think about. So we have students that volunteer their time, often during lunch, to work with the teacher to organize their classroom library. That would not have been me. So it's just really impressive that they do that, and the teachers really, really appreciate it. It really helps.
Giving up lunch. That'd be pretty tough.
Of course, when I went to school, they didn't have classroom libraries, so, either, so. And the classrooms have books right there at the ready for our students, so
Yeah.
appreciate them. End of the year for BSU Multicultural Club, had some celebration and events, just a lot to share and a lot to be excited about with those groups. A lot of great work done this year. I think you might have seen this online. Yes, 14 students passing that exam, which I have heard is not easy. I know I could not pass it for autos. So, pretty impressive, and you can see how proud they are. That's always kind of nice. The garden work, this is summer. Students on summer coming out and working on the garden out back here. So science students and Eco Club.
I just learned about that cardboard deal on the gardens today.
Yeah?
As a matter of fact, yeah, that's a thing. Kills
It's a
the
thing.
weed- Kills the weeds
It's
and,
biodegradable.
yeah, and then you just put the dirt and stuff over the top of it.
Yeah.
Saves a lot.
Yeah.
And so this one, this is really funny. I'm so glad they did this. So you can see the class from 5th grade
Oh
to
my
2023. Isn't that cute?
So
So cute. Aw. And then the parade, of course. Exciting event there.
I
Always
wonder
a
who
neat
enjoys it
event.
more,
Yeah.
you know, the seniors or the little kids?
Yeah, or the
Both.
teachers, right?
The teachers do, yeah.
It's a great
The
tradition.
teachers really
Yeah.
love that. You know, one of the things that I think is so cool about our district is we do try to tie in the graduates with the entire district. And once that senior parade started, and we've always had our staff walk kids out, it's just really cool.
Yeah.
Neat event. Environmental studies out there with Sarah Larson from the village and, parks. Showing them around, just really neat. And I don't know him well, but everybody that does says really great things.
Very
He's
knowledgeable.
Very
super
knowledgeable guy. Really excited, enthusiastic
Yeah.
is what I've heard, so.
He also has tricks to have people behave at the parks the way that he wants them to.
Oh,
There you go.
have to learn some of those.
Think about garbage can placement and
Yeah.
things like that.
Important. So marketing awards for our students here. It's amazing to me, you know, being in this role, is just how many amazing accomplishments our students have. So a couple more there. And then, of course, our, you know, Optimist Senior of the Month, Jacob, who I think might be in the back there. He's starting to
Yeah.
help out with the board meeting, so congratulations to you, Jacob, in the back. Thank you for your work this evening. Got a good teacher back there. And now we can start featuring some summer school artists doing some great projects there. And I also wanted to share this with you, and hopefully you remember this, but if not, pretend like you do. Had shared this with you on the land on Sigelcow. Some of that land is leased for farming through this program called Rooted. And so we have about 13 families that farm on that land and use food for their family and produce food for their family and community. And not for the market, but for their own use. And so this was a community garden summit that they had on the property on June 15th. So I had a group kind of come out and share. And I tried to, they sent some pictures, and I wanted to give you a sense of kind of the education and community, talking about, you know, what the program is, things.
Aaron, do they have water out there, or do they have to bring their own water in?
I don't know.
They have to bring their own
They
water.
bring their own water, I think.
They are
BYOW.
working on grants for some large 500-gallon tanks, and certainly connected them with the village to see if the village could use one of their tankers to help with that.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think that's that part. And there's nothing coming up. There's less coming up than I usually would share here. I think our next school board meeting is on the 17th.
17th, I believe.
17th, and you will have a 50-year-old superintendent at that meeting, which are my birthday, so
50.
I don't know why I
That's a
said that.
big
Not that
one.
you needed to know that, but you know you do.
Little baby.
Are you gonna do the, I'm 50?
Oh, yeah, the
Thing.
Saturday Night Live thing?
Yep.
We'll see. And I can kick. Okay.
Yep.
This concludes my report.
Thank you very much, sir.
Those are
So-
great pictures, by the way.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you, Angie.
Feel-good stuff. Mr. Mahoney,
great stuff.
business managers report, thank you.
I'm here to lend my voice, so Aaron.
Yeah.
You don't want to tire the poor guy out.
Yeah. Too late.
Angie's pulling up. This is a short budget update because while there has been movement with our legislature and our governor, there's still nothing signed. So that's why I'm going to say it's going to be kind of short. So we'll go to the next page. You know, just a review of our revenue situation. Again, this year we're concluding using the 2.2 million ESSER money, which is one-time money. And next year, 23-24, which is coming up, we celebrate New Year's Eve, fiscal Eve here pretty soon on Friday.
It's this Friday?
This Friday, fiscal year Eve. So we'll be spending about 3.4 million of ESSER funds next year. So we additional 325 more in 24-25. So what we have for ESSER funds for this next coming year, we would probably use about 750,000 less of the ESSER funds, or we'd be making some one-time appropriations for potentially some projects or things that need to be taken care of. Maybe there's some technology pieces, some one-time funding that we might need to make sure we're not losing any of our ESSER funds. If we go to the expenditure side, the next. There we go. You know, really, nothing's really changed here from my previous 3 times I've talked about this. But, you know, what's important is that in 24-25, when we don't have the ESSER funds, but we do have 1.5 million more in revenue authority, it would take our projected $4.2 million referendum down by 1.5 million so that we are able to fund 24-25. If you go to the next slide. So that, we're waiting for the houses to vote, and then we start really preparing for 24-25 with a lower referendum amount, which we're really kind of hoping. Again, it would have taken the legislature, we'd need about $1,600 to $1,700 more per student. If they were to authorize that, then we would not have upcoming referendum plans. So we will start that planning once that gets a little bit more firmed up. So questions on this very brief budget update?
So it's sort of good news.
It's great news. They didn't give us 0.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the best in 10 years.
But nothing's been
12
signed.
years.
So what-
Yeah.
That's right.
Is there a timeline for them to sign the budget?
Well, the houses are going through it this week.
Mhm.
There were still some hearings today, tomorrow, on a few other things. And then it goes to the governor, and then the governor usually signs it about a week, 2 weeks after, because then he has the ability to do vetoes, line item. So, but, you know, again, you know, we've been basing all of our planning on the fact that we might not receive any additional funding, and we had planned out our ESSER funding strategically to take care of 23-24. So
Well done.
Yeah,
all good
absolutely.
news.
Well done. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
John.
That is that report. The next item is the Wabisa Intermediate School site, and Angie's gonna bring up some attachments. You're gonna have an action item this evening that's really kind of a action on a memo stating that the work that our joint village school board committee has been working on advancing plans for a joint project. And that joint project includes some things that have already been approved by the board, most notably the softball and that site's concession, bathroom, storage facility, and then also the road that goes to it. But additionally, for those that haven't seen some of our presentations, the big joint venture is taking on the aspect that a couple blocks away, there was proposed village park that would have had the need for more parking, so more asphalt. There would have had to been not a concession, but a restroom and storage area, and also playground equipment. Well, when Matt and I were meeting on that a couple of years back, things are 1-2 blocks away. So instead of probably spending both $1.5 million apiece, we're trying to do a joint project, which would be on the Wabisa site. So,
Would you like me to put the building plan, the site plan, or want it?
how about the site plan? Just kind of give an overview. So again, tonight's memorandum that you're approving in action item is a roadmap and a commitment between the two boards to continue our planning for these projects. Plan 1A and 1B is the, I'm actually just gonna go up there and point, because you really can't take in all of it, but. So, yep. So this is the road that will lead to the concession pavilion area that will have bathrooms and storage.
I think you're actually.
Is that a touch screen?
I did that? Oh, it's good, right there, perfect. So that's what's happening September through March. So that our softball venue finally gets bathrooms and storage. But it also complements our other youth sports that use that area because they'll also be able to use it. This was an inclusive park that was planned for over right about here that the village was going to be developing. And with the location and the ability for us to have a great amount of more usage by our students
Yeah.
in our community, this will continue to be planned out as an inclusive playground area. This area, as we discussed in December of 2021, our current playground at Wabisa is up on a hill, does not have great ADA access. Equipment's 26 years old now, so we are looking to put traditional playground equipment, not as much, because there'll be more of this that can be used. And our hard surface, which is up in this area, would be over on this side, which each of the principals that I've worked with since even Phil Meissen has always looked at how nice would it be if this could be the area where our students could have playground time. So that these areas would really start in earnest being planned after September 1. And we would be working with our staff at the building, but also our community because of it being a community park. Now, to pull this all off, this would go back to green space.
Yeah.
And probably one of those nice outdoor, reading areas because it is up on a hill. So it would be nice. The challenge, just like we had here at the high school, is the fact that to pull off this whole project because a portion of this field has to shift and we need to make that field larger to accommodate all of the additional sports as well that are using our sites. We are planning that this would be an artificial surface so that it could be built in 1 year, in one season during the summer so that our students don't miss out on playground, recess, or gym. And we would have lots of people in our community that wouldn't have a place to use. It's not uncommon for a lot of places to now be moving forward with artificial surface because of the payback time frame on a regular field that have to have irrigation, and you'd lose basically 2 to 3 seasons of activity if you're going to actually do it right. So all of that put together is the plan we've been moving forward that the Joint Committee has been asking us to continue moving forward on. So the big highlight is that for Phase 1A and 1B, which is the concession stand, we have our building partner, Iconica, is in final mode with that. We've submitted that to the village for Plan Commission, which is July 16th. When is 17th? It's Tuesday after the board meeting.
Is it pretty similar to the one over in the baseball facility?
Similar, but it's got some nuances. It'll have, and we can pull up the floor plan. Yep, perfect. So very similar to the baseball one. It does have a little bit more of a park-like fitting to it, a little bit more block. And the concessions is fairly similar. There's some nuances that we've done with that. We have our mechanical rooms, storage. It's a very functional facility.
It's going to be great.
Anything better than a porta potty. Because
That's been it.
if there's one thing we've been consistent in McFarland is that every time a facility was built in McFarland for athletics, they said no to concession stands and bathrooms, even though the stadium one had to be fundraised. So, so that's there might be an elevation one you could pull up.
I have one question
Yep.
about that, Jeff. I know that the village is working towards gender inclusive bathrooms. Is that on this plan? It doesn't really look like it.
What we do have is the single stall,
Okay.
the unisex bathrooms that are
On each
separate
side.
from the other ones.
Okay.
Does
I
that
would-
meet the needs you're talking about?
Not entirely. I don't, I mean, I don't know a ton about them, but I mean, inclusive environments are tending towards more gender neutral, gender inclusive, like that the bathrooms are just the same and anyone can use them.
Yep.
And I know that the village is also going towards that as one of their
And
goals.
I believe that's one of the reasons why, you know, whether they're not labeled by the architect that way. But because of the fact that we do have the teams, softball, and having not as many, more space, I guess, so, but we can,
I would look into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would encourage you to look into it because I think it will be very quickly dated, I think, with the way that buildings are getting built these days.
Jeff, would the unisex bathrooms also be considered like family bathrooms?
yes.
Yeah.
Looks nice though.
And I think there was an elevation picture. Pretty exciting.
It's gonna be a really nice development over there though.
Yeah. So that's really it for the Wabisa site plan update.
Nice.
The only question I have, Jeff, is the AstroTurf, that field.
Artificial surf.
Yeah, artificial surface.
AstroTurf is a company. I
Okay,
just gotta,
got it.
there's a lot of companies that call us and
Tissue?
say.
Oh, okay, sorry. But the artificial surface is gonna be the drainage, because I know when the teams would run, the cross-country teams would practice on that field, down by the softball diamonds, that was often very wet.
Yep.
Yeah, so
So
we're working on
you've
that,
got
and that's
that.
getting included in that.
The
Yeah, you'll-
football
you'll-
practices ran into a lot of that too.
Okay, so that's good.
Yep.
Good.
Jeff, a couple other questions. Have our local OTs and PTs been consulting with some committee?
Oh, for the
to talk
inclusive,
about
so
the- Yes.
the inclusive park process has yet to start as
Okay.
far as bringing the committees
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
But yes, we
But
have,
they'll be.
we have individuals that we already kind of,
Yeah.
Then the second thing is shade
yep.
on the playground. This is a serious thing, though. You
No.
know, you have all these kids out, no hats,
Oh.
no sunscreen.
Well, and spectators
It
as well.
runs contrary to what at least we believe in. But even just the playground, I mean, are you gonna put trees on there to provide shade for kids?
For the inclusive park,
Either one, yes.
that does have more.
I saw them all on
Landscape.
the side.
Canopy, there's
Right.
stuff in the middle. We are looking at trees, so.
Because I think trees are a great investment for the health and safety of kids. I know you were instrumental in putting them on the elementary school playground at one time. Unfortunately, they were all taken down with the renovation and all
know.
that stuff. But even when I'm going by the playgrounds, you know, there's no shade for the kids to
Looks hot.
retrieve from the sun. I think, I don't know, has health services brought that up at all? About the need for shade for
I mean,
kids?
we'll add it to the discussion,
I like-
particularly for.
I like what you
this
have
one.
there, but I think all playgrounds probably need more shade.
Any other
It looks
questions?
good.
It's coming along nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a final completion date, Jeff, for everything?
No,
But phase one is starting.
Phase one is
Yeah,
starting
that's
after
starting.
September
Okay.
one
Okay.
with the road, the utilities, and the village is taking on that portion, and then our construction of the facility starts after September one. And then, and it's strategic because we have a lot of users over in that area, including our MRAP programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
lots of challenges with squeezing everything in and not upsetting
Yeah.
anybody.
Yep.
You know, working with the youth football program, making sure that their space, our ultimate frisbee,
Yep.
our softball, our soccer, our
Soon to be lacrosse.
lacrosse. There's no shortage of interested parties.
Yep.
That's excellent.
That's good.
But we're gonna have bathrooms for those interested parties.
Yes, that's the way to go. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Definite benefit.
Much appreciated.
Thanks for all your work on that.
It's kind of a fun project.
And it's a really good example of the partnership between the
Yes.
school district and the village.
Collaboration.
I think that's a great thing for the village to see.
Yep.
the
Keep
whole
up the good
community.
work, my man. Thank you very much. Drive careful. Safe travels. All right. Okay, we have some action items. The first being action on memorandum of understanding with Natural Circles of Support for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. I would look for a motion to approve.
I'll make that move. I have moved to approve the memorandum of understanding with Natural Circles of Support for the time period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, as recommended by administration.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have action on the Wabisa Intermediate School Inclusive Park Project with the Village of McFarland. I would look for a motion for approval.
I move to approve the Wabisa Intermediate School Inclusive Park Project between the district and the Village of McFarland as recommended by administration.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Megan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on approval of WIAA Girls Hockey Cooperative Team Sponsorship. I would look for a motion for approval.
I can move to approve the WIAA Girls Hockey Cooperative Team Sponsorship as recommended by administration.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on McFarland High School early graduation request. I would look for a motion for approval.
I move to approve the attached MHS early graduation request as recommended by administration.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Bruce. Further discussion?
Yes, I'll make a comment. This is a student that has completed all the necessary requirements in 3 years.
Right.
I mean, that is fast-paced. And that just shows us that, in some areas, they're going from a 4-year to a 3-year high school potential. So it can be done. I mean, there are significant trade-offs
You're
when
right.
a student does that, but it can be done. And again, might be something that we promote that with more students, rather than having them hang around for their senior year, especially if they have other plans beyond graduation.
I like that. Why not? Anything else?
Oh, one other comment.
Go ahead.
Knowing someone that worked in an alternative high school, another school district, what was happening, this was a few years ago, is that students would become disruptive to get into the school within a school so they could accelerate their learning and graduate ahead of their class.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
That's a bit sinister, but
But
it happens.
It
yeah.
happens.
I'm sure.
And it can be done.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have no doubt. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on appointment of our 2023-2024 medical advisor. As per policy, annually, the district will arrange for a qualified individual to serve as the medical advisor. At this time, we recommend the appointment of Thomas Merwin, MD, for the 2023-2024 school year. I would look for a motion for approval.
Sure, I'll move to approve the appointment of Thomas Merwin, MD, as the district medical advisor for the 2023-24 school year as recommended by administration.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kate, further discussion?
I'll make a comment. Knowing
Please.
Dr. Merwin, I certainly appreciate the work that he has done, especially during the pandemic years, but also his willingness to continue to be a partner with the school district, particularly our younger students,
Yep.
meaning athletes.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Well said. Anything else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on recommended WEVA, Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin, Statute 118.408G, student transfers to resident districts. At this time, WEVA, Destinations Career Academy, and Insight School of Wisconsin are requesting approval of recommended student transfers back to their residential districts due to lack of engagement. I would look for a motion for approval.
I can move to approve the WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to lack of engagement.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. Further discussion?
Of course. Again, once again, I'll share my concern that we have 2 kindergarten students, 4 second grade students, 5 third grade students, 3 fifth grade students, and 3 fourth grade students, and 4 fifth grade students, for a total of 18 students who are going to be returning to their school districts. And they left their school districts probably for a good reason. In addition, there's 20 12th graders going back to their district. And again, you've heard me say this before, who's going to support these students? And I mean, we've done a great job. In fact, I think this is quite a bit shorter of a list than we had
Very
last
much,
June.
very much.
So I think their efforts are paying off, but I still hate to see any student fall between the cracks and not get the support that they need.
And I just can't help but feel that in many cases, it's the lack of a real commitment from the parents to become a part of their, child's educational journey.
Particularly with the young students.
Yep, and it is sad that there's so many young ones, and to have that many seniors is actually surprising. And we don't, I believe, have a, there's no mechanics to finding out whether they ever do get back to their residential school districts or not, and the suspicion has been historically that most don't. You don't have to accept, I don't know this, so I shouldn't talk like I do, but I don't know that districts have to accept requests for enrollment from students with disciplinary histories or have been expelled from another school. So it's a difficult situation for sure.
And it's not just a virtual school issue. Yeah, it's a
That's true.
system-wide issue across the country. And I would challenge all of our legislatures by asking them, who's going to be advocating for these kids? Who's going to implement new regulations or standards so these kids can be successful in their school career?
I believe every kid can be, given the right opportunities and resources.
And that's it.
Anything
My
else?
comments.
If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Kate, thank you. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you, Megan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned at 9:13.
13, 12.
Well, that 3 hours went quick.
Excellent work tonight, everyone.